So I need everyone to go to the website and jjb2023.com. Go sign up and support. Go to the Cash App, $ Judge Joe Brown 2023. Support. Now we have to get into, because an hour already went by, and that's, I'm like, we only talked about 2 things. That's not good, because I had other things on the list. So stop with the teaching and just.
Why don't you tell me up front what you've got so I can.
But the teaching you can save for Monday now.
Well, okay, all right.
This is about current events.
Next subject. I'm here. Next subject.
So before we get into this, let's just do a little bit of background of the Americans that were kidnapped and 2 ultimately deceased. Was 4 Americans that were kidnapped, and 2 out of the 4 has been deceased in Mexico. So everything we need to know about the kidnapping. Let me make sure.
And you're aware of the latest update?
Can you wait until I get there? Okay. Yes, I am. Stop thinking that I'm not going to cover it. All right. Let's see.
Attacks on U.S. citizens are unacceptable, no matter where or under what circumstances they happen.
It's been repatriated back. The 2 survivors have since been repatriated back to the United States. We thank our Mexican and U.S. law enforcement partners for their efforts to find these innocent victims, and the task forward is to ensure that justice is done.
Okay.
Wait.
Hey, Seth, you getting ready?
Because it's something else that I wanted to play. I had to let that go through, and it's right after this stupid ad or whatever. It's because I want us to.
You can hit that thing over there. It flashed up.
No, it can't skip it. I can't skip it. I have to kind of like let it go. It's just a couple more seconds. And this.
Tragedy in Mexico. 2 of the Americans who were kidnapped after crossing the border are back in the U.S. this morning. And you're looking live at the hospital where one of them is being treated in Brownsville, Texas. The other 2 Americans were killed. Matt Rivers is in Mexico City with the latest for us. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Michael. 1 person has already been detained in this case, but with so many U.S. law enforcement agencies putting pressure on their Mexican counterparts to find who is responsible here, more arrests could be coming soon. This morning, 2 of the 4 Americans kidnapped in Mexico now waking up on U.S. soil after surviving this horrific attack. Armed men seen loading the group onto a pickup truck in Matamoros Friday. Their other 2 friends did not survive.
2 U.S. citizens were returned to the United States. The bodies of 2 other U.S. citizens killed in the same incident were also recovered.
Eric James Williams and Latavia Tay McGee making it out alive. McGee seen here with law enforcement shortly after she was rescued. A convoy then taking the survivors to the border near Brownsville, Texas. The 2 then crossing over to a waiting ambulance. McGee's mother describing the moment she found out her daughter had survived.
I had to hold my arm. I was thinking the Lord. I said, thank you, Jesus. There is a God.
Williams now in a Brownsville, Texas hospital after undergoing surgery for multiple gunshot wounds to his legs. His wife, Michelle, able to speak with him briefly.
It was just tears of joy, I guess, that he's alive. I didn't even want to imagine what he was going through or, what any of them were going through.
2 other members of the group, Shaid Woodard and Zindell Brown, tragically killed. Authorities finally finding the missing Americans after a 3-day manhunt, leading them to this wooden house in Lagunona, outside Matamoros. A 24-year-old man identified only by his first name, Jose, arrested. Mexican authorities say he was in charge of watching the Americans. According to her family, McGee had traveled with the others from Lake City, South Carolina to Mexico to get cosmetic surgery. When the four crossed into Matamoros on Friday, her family says armed gunmen in body armor chased them, opening fire on their white minivan. The gunmen then kidnapping the group. A Mexican bystander also killed. Mexican officials now believe the shooting and kidnapping was a case of mistaken identity. A source close to the investigation telling ABC News the gunmen may have targeted the vehicle because they wrongly believed the group of Americans were rival human traffickers.
Now, this case was solved relatively quickly here in Mexico, a country with an untold number of unsolved disappearances, kidnappings, murders. It's prompted a lot of criticism of Mexico's president, saying this case was only solved because Americans were involved, a deference given to the United States.
And you know, Matt, some lawmakers think U.S. forces should be allowed to target cartels in Mexico. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Some U.S. lawmakers like Senator Lindsey Graham calling for some cartels to be designated as foreign terrorist organizations, which would set the groundwork for U.S. military intervention. But Mexico's president already saying he would not allow troops here into Mexico. And every expert I've spoken to, Michael, saying that the idea that U.S. troops could solve a problem so deeply enmeshed in Mexican society, they're skeptical at best.
All right, Matt Rivers, thank you.
It's also violating a whole lot of law. Now, let's fast forward off all this bullshit. What happened today is the Mexican cartels rounded up the 5 people they think are responsible. They hog-tied them and dumped them in a street with an apology note written by various leaders of drug cartels. That's this right here. And I guess they say, you guys have been such good customers, we don't want to upset our goodwill. So here is a token. Here are the people that seem to be responsible. You have them. Now, if Mexican authorities, again, we've got the same thing that's already happened before. The crime got committed in Mexico. What is America's jurisdiction to deal with the crime? None. So the bottom line becomes, what is Mexico going to do about it? Let's see how Mexican justice works out. And
okay, so this is what I'm saying. This guy here, he's smiling. They're not worried because the Mexican government or Mexican officials, what they're going to do about it is nothing.
Well, that may not be why they're smiling. If you take Tijuana 2 years ago for the year in question had 2,700 firearm-related fatalities. Tijuana, 2,700 killings, not counting the ones by knife and anything else. So maybe what they're smiling about is we're still breathing and we can do this time. See, the time will be done in Mexico. There is no basis for an American extradition because no crime was committed on American soil. We don't have a connection with it. It's like, for example, if somebody killed a Mexican tourist in America, would America extradite an American citizen to Mexico to get tried by the Mexican authorities, or would they try that person here in the United States? Answer, they try the person here in the United States. I don't know where some of these folk get the idea that we can just come in and run roughshod over everybody and take over their law. See, we don't have any jurisdiction in Mexico. And this whole dodge about we want to declare these groups to be terrorist organizations. Well, we've been subsidizing them for a long time. And there are various reasons why, from raising funds for black ops, which means those things that were supposed to be directed toward fighting commies and now international terrorism and all of that other stuff, to J. Edgar Hoover's sojourn into that back in the 70s when he wanted to, let's say, get the black community and a target community.
But this is the question that I have. You know, now they're saying that all of them had a record, a criminal record. The woman that is alive, she was just one woman, and when I'm supposed to go and get the tummy tuck. And why are you driving from South Carolina all the way into Mexico for a tummy tuck? And then it was saying like you're actually spending more money. And none of these people were employed. They don't have an employment history. Their background did show them currently being employed. The woman, Latavia Washington of Myrtle Beach, and 3 others. But Latavia, she has her kids were taken away from her some years ago because they tested positive for drugs in their hair. So they all had an extensive criminal background, and I think that the tummy tuck was just a decoy. I think it probably was allegedly, I don't know, but if I'm going to say if it's like, you know, a backstory to this, I think it had to do with a drug run. Maybe they were, what do you call them? Human mules or whatever? Drug mules?
Alleged.
Alleged.
Language so you don't get held liable for some kind of defamation of character.
Right. So, you know, she had previous charges of for neglect after 5 children tested positive for drugs. So, you know, there's just a lot of now questions that are coming up.
Well, you know, look, let me say this. I'm running for mayor of Memphis, and right now, last I checked last night, there are 662 families who've lost loved ones one way or another due to insane violence here in Memphis in the last 24 months and 3 weeks. So I'm more concerned about them. This is routine for me. I handle murder cases all the time. I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge, and I heard murder case, aggravated assault to commit murder, armed robbery, kidnapping stuff, all drug-related mess. When I was a criminal defense lawyer, I think I tried 42 murder cases, first degree. I was training a capital defense team for the local public defender's office. I've handled a bunch of homicides and violent crimes. This is routine to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm like the coroner. All the coroner deals with is what? Dead people. What does a funeral director deal with, and how does he only live? Dead people. Well, I dealt with violation of the law and insanity, or just
okay. But this is the thing now. Just we're focusing on Mexico today.
I'm not focusing on Mexico. You are, because Mexico.
Because this is just for the purpose of the topic. We're talking about the topic.
Okay, let me put it to you this way. Mexico is
an question that I'm going to ask you though.
Mexico has an operative government. Whether or not we like it, it is their lawful government. It is firmly in power. It does have its own legal system. How they conduct it is their damn business. Anytime you go abroad, we have gotten beyond gunboats on the Yangtze River and American Marines going into Haiti and storming the place. We've gotten beyond that. And what happens now is the country is not where it used to be. Great Britain isn't where it used to be.
All right, before you go to the history lesson, let me ask you this question.
So here's the bottom line. When you travel to another country, you put yourself in their hands.
So this is the thing. Right here, United States State Department issued a travel advisory. So it says the do not travel is the red, and this is the section where those 4 people traveled to. The orange section is reconsider travel. So that means you may want to reconsider because something may happen. The red section is saying don't travel there because something will happen. And then the yellow section, which you have the Cancun and the Cabo and stuff like that, the vacation tourist spots, the Tulums, is increased caution. So you're going to travel with caution. I'm not going to Mexico if it's all these colors, honey.
No, don't go.
It's not safe. Now, but
nobody's making you.
But why are Americans being kidnapped or deleted in Mexico? That's
okay.
not the first.
Hold on. They aren't. Statistically, if you take all of the Americans who take themselves to Mexico and you divide that number into 2 or 4, you don't even get point zero 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 zero. You get a whole bunch of zeros before you get to a number. So it's statistically insignificant, but it is what it is. It's just like I tell folk all the time, if you're going to go somewhere, be able to handle it. And if you go somewhere thinking you live in the United States of America, when you're there or you're in the U.S., it's not the same. We have some rights and benefits that nobody else in the world has. Europe, Africa, Asia, it doesn't make any difference. South America, they don't have those rights, not even in Canada. And those rights come with some responsibilities that today we throw away because it's not safe. See, for example, how many folk want to go to nice, safe Paris? Want to go to Paris to shop?
Well, apparently you're not paying for women.
No, but I mean,
you're not going to take a shopping to Paris.
You love to go to. My ex-wife used to go to Paris all the time to shop. But if you get in a mess over there, guess what? You are presumed guilty until you prove yourself innocent. So if you go clown and do stuff you can get away with here in America all the time and they bust you, you got a big problem because you got to come up with the witnesses to prove that you didn't do what they're accusing you of. Now, granted, the gendarmes, they're not going to mess with you like American police will jack you around.
Well,
but the bottom line is once you get grabbed, you've been grabbed. And in England, they got a saying over there, a cop in England would be dead within 2 weeks if he came to an American city and tried to be cop. And if an American cop went over there, he'd be in jail in 2 weeks.
Don't judge him, Joe Brown.